we're going to be working on a picture that's involving balance, symmetry, and rhythm. We're going to use markers like this. Some sets have been mixed up quite a lot, so your table should probably get 2 sets just in case there are some missing colors out of there. And you're going to start this project. This is a spring kind of project. We're going to be observing and celebrating the new growth of colorful plants that come out of the ground, flowers. So one thing we're going to need is a bright color, a spring color. So I'm going to choose this purple. I think this looks, the cap at least looks bright. And there's 2 sizes to the pen. This is a brush, which is very pointed, and then the other side is the broad kind of chisel point, which will be a little bit less useful for this project, so I'm going to stick with the brush size. And the first thing I want to do is to orient my paper either vertically or horizontally. It'll be easier to do it horizontally, so I'm going to stick with that for now. And I'm going to first put a small purple circle just randomly on my paper, and then I'm going to think about this whole space, this area of rectangle here, and how to create balance. This purple is up in the corner and there's nothing else. To balance that out, I could do another purple circle, and that's kind of like opposite. But then if I do another little bit of a purple thing, maybe a solid purple circle, that's also helping to balance out these other 2. And to help balance out this big bold one, maybe I'll do one of those up here. And then for a little bit more variety or different things, I'll do a small one there. And maybe to balance that little one out, a small one over here. So that's 6 purple items. Those will be flowers in the future, but I don't want to get rid of this purple yet. I'm going to set this aside because I'm going to need this a little bit later. And now I'm going to choose another bright color. But stay away from the greens, because the greens we're going to need for the stems. Choose colors that are yellows, pinks, purples, blues, things like that. Try this color, see what this looks like. If you're not quite sure what the color looks like, at your table I can have available to you a small piece of paper to test the actual color. So that's kind of a orangish peach. Maybe I want something a little brighter than that, so I'm going to set this back. Let's see what this one looks like. Little test, it's a little bit brighter orange, a little darker. So I'm going to set this in a similar fashion around the paper space. There's one. Balance it with that. Maybe balance with a more solid, and then another solid somewhere else. Maybe a dot and a dot. So 6 of those. But also at this time I'm going to incorporate the same orange color into the purple soon to be flower shapes. So one way to do that is just the real basic sort of flower petal design, like letter U shapes. I'm going to try to create symmetry so that they're the same each time. So there's that one. And then to create something similar to it, but maybe not exactly the same, you can do like that. These are just sort of lines that are thick. And then maybe this one I'll just put circles for the petals. And then this one, just little dots. Maybe just 4 there. And then this one, you know what? I'm going to leave it for that. I'm going to leave some purple ones alone until I have another color, because I don't want it to be all just purple and orange. And then I'm going to take that purple that I had from before and do similar things that I just did with the orange with petals. So I could do this, create a symmetrical petal pattern, or I could do lines. Or little dots. Maybe another petal design over here. So you're trying to scatter these designs around so that you're not having all the same designs in the same space, always. For example, I wouldn't want to put circle designs around this one because then it would be too similar to this one. So I am kind of looking around and seeing how I can make it as sort of mixed up as possible, just limiting yourself with 2 colors. Now I'm going to go and find a new color. That's kind of an orange, so let's go for maybe, let's see what this yellow is. Now I can see the cap's got some of that color on there. It's kind of not a very bright yellow, but it's, as far as the set goes, it's kind of the brightest we're going to get. I think I'm going to just go for it. Take a risk. I'm going to do just a little bit of a yellow ochre, actually. It might dry a little later as the alcohol in these markers evaporates. And since they are alcohol ink, we don't want to let them touch our skin because it takes a little bit of time for them to actually wash off. It stains fingernail beds and especially your clothing, so please do not get any ink anywhere near your clothes. This one had some purple dots. I'm going to add yellow dots in between those purple dots. This one I'm going to add lines to it. This one I'm going to put a little dot in the middle of the purple. And now we're starting to be a little bit more playful with our choices because there's more things to look at and a little bit more complicated design because we're getting more components to it. We have 3 colors instead of just the 2, and we have more options. It can be a little bit more adventurous too with your choices. So I'm going to put little dots on the outside of those lines, and they're not even touching the lines. It's sort of an implied connectivity because they're all lined up with these, even though they're not touching. They seem to be connected because the way that the spokes of this wheel are going out. And let's see, I'm going to put probably some more there. This one's still alone, so I'm going to do probably just dots on this one because it's kind of small. And you notice here I put those circles inside of this petal. I'll do that over here inside these purple ones. And I put a dot in the middle of that purple one there. Let's see, a little bit more around there. So I'm going to kind of make these C shapes around those little dots. All right, and then one more color, I think, before we finish this, at least the flower portion. This pink here looks a little bit bright. Let's maybe do a test on it. See how that compares with that orange one we did. It's a little bit lighter and a little bit more like a bubblegum sort of pink. So let's do something around this one here. So I'm going to see if I can connect petals around here without touching any of those circles. Now I'll put little pink dots in between here. So we got pink and pink, but no pink over here, so we need to jump over to this side. And I think I'll see if I can very carefully surround these little dots with pink circles. And then they might actually connect to those red, orangish red lines there. And I'll put pink dots inside these petals. I will, let's see, make pink lines sticking out of there. And little dots around here. Dots are very easy to do and they're very impactful. I'm a little nervous about this guy. If I try to make a circle, which I want to do, there's a chance that it could be a little bit bumpy, but you know what? I'm gonna risk it. Let's see if I can make a really good circle around here. Yeah, that's not so bad. And then this one, I'll put little pink dots on the outside of that. I'm gonna see if there's any insides that could use some pink. Let's see, maybe in here I'll do a dot. And there I'll do a dot. And maybe some dots inside those purple petals. And then here, just some little baby dots there. All right, so it's getting full and a little bit more interesting because we have every flower that I have here is completely different. They're using the same 4 colors, but they're not identical at all. None of the designs are the same. I'm just using dots and curves and lines, really, for the whole thing. So now I'm going to stop here with the flower part, and I'm going to create stems for the flowers. It's a very minimalistic sort of abstract design here. To continue with that, I'm going to think about just creating vertical lines with green. So for this activity, the line part, you want to pull the lines towards you downwards, so it's a very straight armed motion. I'll start with the easy one first. So the foreground would be these front ones here, the lower ones. So I'm just going to go from here straight down with the vertical green line. So do all the bottom ones first. And they don't have to touch the flower. If you want to leave a little bit of space so we're not mixing colors. And then I'm going to go to the second row, which would be here. It's getting a little bit tighter. I'm going to assume the stem would be coming from the center. So I'm afraid to intersect some of these colors, so I'm just going to avoid that. And sort of make little dots there. Here, it's going to be grazing that. So I just make a broken line there. And there. This one, stop there, start. And it's sort of lined up with this one, so I'm just going to leave it alone. This one stops, continues. And then this one should make it. This one's getting pretty close to everything. All right, and then to give it a little bit more dimension, I'm going to find a green that's a little darker than this one. So this is probably a good place to do a test. Put your first green on that paper that you've got, and then look in your selection so you can find something that you assume will be darker. I'm going to guess maybe this one will be good. So to verify that, I'm going to set it right next to the first green. And yes, indeed, it's darker. So here, I'm going to try to get a very fine line on one side of that first green. I'm not going over the entire thing. I'm just putting it a little overlapping, maybe half of it's overlapped, maybe less than half, actually. And that way the highlight is not ruined. Time for school. Here I made a mistake. There's a little bit of a gap there. So I want to fill that in. You really need to be focused on this part to get straight lines. If you're having conversations, your brain is not focusing on this task of drawing straight. You're focusing on language and conversations, and your lines are not going to be as straight as they need to be. And you've only got this single day to create this project, so you better hurry up. We're going to run out of time if we don't. So this whole activity is just about done. There's a little bit of gap there, and it does bother me, so I'm going to fill that in. A little bit there, but I'm going to let that slide. If you want now, just for some extra interest, you could create just maybe some insects, some bugs crawling around on stuff, and that's kind of fun to do. It's a 3-segment, like a little ant, 1, 2, 3, with little ant legs sticking out the center, thorax, little antennas. I'm using these very small 0.35 millimeter pens. So I've got a trail of ants crawling up this flower here. 1, 2, 3. 2 antennas, 3 little legs sticking out that way. And they're so small that they're kind of just like little surprise additions to your project. If you'd like to also maybe explore tracing some of your smaller details with this kind of pen to add another dimension, and it's another way to balance out black ants, to create black lines on your picture here. I wouldn't overdo that, but on occasion, if you want to trace a few things that might be interesting, or like little dots, this will be the darkest shapes you've got and will attract a lot of attention. And if you want to add a few more designs, maybe over here. And I was thinking about like a spider web, but I think that might be a little too distracting. My eyes would probably go straight to that spider web because of all the black lines that I could add to it. I'm going to leave it probably just like that. 2 ants. I don't know how many flowers I have, but it fills the page up nicely. One thing I do notice is there's this big expanse of white here. There's nothing. And I'm wondering if I like that or not. It's almost like everything's sort of crowded in this way. It's not the most natural thing. It looks like somebody just kind of came with some garden shears and just chopped all these off. But at this stage, I think it's probably too late to get in there. It's not actually too late, but I'm gonna leave it for now. But this is bothersome that there's none a little bit staggered. So try not to have them all lined up the way that I did here. See how there's a lot of crowding here with these stems and overlapping. If you can get them a little more spaced out, you'll have more room for that, and it will be less of a headache for you. So that's our one-day project. Good luck to you, and I'll see you next time.